right now. Yeah. Okay. So I think that you all can see my screen. Yeah. Well, like this slide says, we're going to in this Toronto Meetup Meetup session. I think this is the number 14. That's pretty good. We're going to give it a look to MUnit, and then we are going to get deeper and deeper on something called MUnit test recorder and something pretty cool called parameterizations. Yeah. So before anything, let me introduce myself. For those who don't know, my name is Flavio Natale. I'm from Argentina, but I live in Spain. And I'm also the Muse of Meetup leader for Barcelona. And I work as a senior developer at Cognizant. I think most of you know Cognizant. And I got the certification of MuleSoft Certified Developer and working right now on getting the architecture ones. So, okay. So now let's start this session with a little bit of fun. Yeah. So be honest. How many times have we developed something, whether easy or complex, and as soon as we got our happy path, we mark the development as done with strong confidence, right away. So perhaps the functionality was too simple or technical complexity was low that no error could occur. But whatever the reason that might have been, we are missing something very important, which is testing. Yeah. So all of a sudden, the QA team or customer uses the application in another way we didn't expect, and then busted. We are in trouble. So this is what this meetup is all about. It's for testing with MUnit and getting the advantages of this tool. Yeah. So this is the agenda for today. Before going any further, please let me tell you that if you have any questions, please pop them up in the chat, and I'm going to answer them whenever possible. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to see. I'm going to give a quick overview about MUnit, and then we're going to have the first quiz. Remember that answering the quizzes allows you to create chances to get this voucher for an instructor-led course. Yeah. After the first quiz, we are going to get deeper and deeper, seeing MUnit test recorder and parameterizations. Yeah. Of course, and then the last quiz, and at the end of all, a toss-up. Yeah. Okay. So to start with MUnit, first let's see something very quick, about types of testing, MUnit, and something it's called submodules and scopes. Yeah. So basically, there are different types of testing, but I think we are more familiar with these three, which are unit testing, integration testing, and performance testing. Yeah. Unit testing is used to verify the functionality of a specific unit. In the case of MuleSoft, it could be a flow or subflow. Yeah. And then we do this testing like plain developers and see that our code works. Then we move to integration testing. Integration testing is used to verify that all the interactions are functional with the systems that the application interacts with. In this type of testings, both input and output data are validated. We care about what we receive and what we get from the external systems. And then we have performance testing. Yeah, this is a crucial one. The main purpose of this type of testing is to verify the performance and behavior of the systems and environments, as well as the scalability and uses of resources and their high load work. Yeah. So this environment usually is like the production one. Yeah. It will be perfect. It will be ideal if the environment is the same, it has the same resources as the production one. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about MUnit. Yeah. So like the slide says, MUnit is a mule application testing framework. Sorry. And has quite a few advantages. Yeah. First, it's embedded on Anypoint Studio. Therefore, there is nothing to be installed on, and we can use it through its graphic interface. Using YAML files, MUnit can auto-generate tests. This is good. Yeah, it's something good. It automatically generates coverage reports about the test we have done over the used code. You know, we can see how many flows of the test that we have done did they work, you know, or not. So that's good. That's good. We have that coverage report. And what else? It's easy to integrate with CI/CD because it supports Maven. It can be easily integrated with Jenkins, for example. Yeah. And also, it allows us to test locally without needing connection to external systems such as FTPs, databases, etc. Yeah. So MUnit is divided in 3 scopes. Yeah. When you open your Anypoint Studio and you want to use MUnit, you're going to see that in the test suite, MUnit suite actually, you'll have three scopes. Yeah. Those are behavior, execution, and validation. In behavior scope, we use it to configure preconditions before the execution, mocks and spies. Then we move to execution scope, where here we define the logic of the test. Typically, it's a flow reference, yeah, to the flow that we want to test. And then we have validation. Validation is used to validate the result of the execution. Here you can add assertions and verifiers. Yeah, so we can validate that the response that we have got, it's okay or not, but we can work with that. Okay, and submodules. MUnit has 2 submodules: MUnit and MUnit tools. Yeah, so each one of them has its own Maven dependency on the POM. Yeah, so if you look at the POM, you will see you have one entry for MUnit and another one for MUnit tools. So in MUnit, as you can see here, we have operations such as set event or before suite. We usually work with this one. And then we have MUnit tools that we have, for example, the assertions, or we can verify the call, spy, whatever. Yeah. So something that you have to keep in mind is that MUnit, it's available since Mule 4 and Anypoint Studio 7.5. Yeah. So yeah, I think that would be a good a quick overview about MUnit, and we can move forward. But first, we have our first quiz. So here you have some chances to get these famous vouchers. Yeah. So please write your answer in the chat, and let's see what happens. Yeah. Okay. So first question: how many submodules are in MUnit? 1, 2, or 3? I'm going to give 10 seconds so everyone can answer. I think this one is pretty easy. So, okay, yeah, the correct answer would be 2. It has 2 submodules, MUnit and MUnit tools. Yeah. And second and last question would be, which of the next sentences is false? A, MUnit generates a coverage report about executed tests. B, MUnit allows us to test locally. And C, MUnit is a framework that is not embedded in Anypoint Studio. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds. Okay, so yeah, the right answer is C. The C sentence is false because MUnit it is embedded in Anypoint Studio. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to give it a look at the chat to see if anyone has someone has any question. 1 second. Well, I think most of you got the answer right. Okay, I see no questions here. I don't know if I'm good or I'm terrible bad. Yeah, perhaps the second one. Okay, so let's move forward. Okay, now we are going to get deeper in this, and this is a little bit more, I think it's more fun. Yeah. Okay, so MUnit test recorder and parameterizations. Yep. So what are we going to see? Test recorder, what is it and how does it work? Then we go to parameterizations. We are going to have a quick demo to see in action, yeah, because theory is good, but practice I think is better. And then the second and last quiz, yeah. So you still have chances to win those vouchers. Okay, so test recorder, what is it? Okay, so test recorder is a mule embedded in Anypoint Studio that allows us to record an entire flow. Yeah, and with that recording, configure a test based on such event. Yeah, so test recorder captures real information as it passes through the application. So this means that every time that our information goes from processor to processor or in the event, test recorder is capturing, is retrieving that information, and we can choose if we want to save that information a little bit later. Yeah. So, and it allows us to create automatically a test in which you can configure the mocks and assertions needed. This is pretty good. Yeah. As soon as you have run the execution using test recorder, it auto generates an MUnit suite that you go right click and run, and that's it. You don't have to do anything. Yeah, you can modify it if you want, of course. So let me correct something. This test recorder is available since MUnit 4 and Anypoint 7.5. Yeah. So test recorder, how does it work? So let's see it in a simple way in 5 steps. Yeah. So the first thing we have to do is record the test. Yeah. So for this, we go to our flow, whatever you want, and we make right click on the flow. Then we go MUnit and then a rigor test for this flow. As soon as we make click on this button, this option, this little window will pop up. Yeah, and as you can see, it says that it's waiting for input data. First, sometimes when you click here, this little window doesn't appear correctly. You know, perhaps you can see only test recorder and that's it. You don't see this. Sometimes it's because the size of the screen that you're using, but don't worry because it says this. So here it says that it's waiting for input data. This means that test recorder is waiting for you to execute the flow. Yeah. For example, if we expose an HTTP listener, we execute the flow calling it from a client like Postman, SwapUI, whatever you want to use. Yeah. So that will be the second step. execute the flow. Yeah. So when you execute the flow, when you send the request, let's say from Postman, you can see, you will able to see that this window changed the message to record them. Here is taking all the information as it passes through the application. Yeah. Once it stop recording, you will be able to configure the test. Yeah, to configure the test, as you can see in this image below. Yeah. So that will be our third step: configure the new MUnit test. So when you hit configure test, at the top left we can see a screen that will be the first one to pop up. Yeah. So here, this is pretty basic. We set the names for the file and for the test. Yeah, you can set the name that you want. Then we hit next, and when we hit next, we move to the next window, and here we can choose what information do we want to save from the input and the output. Yeah. So you can select here payload, attributes, and variables. Yeah. For the output flow, you won't have these three. You only will have two. We'll see it. We're going to see it in a few minutes. Yeah. So then we hit next, and we move to this bottom left image. Here, you can choose to whether perform or not an action for each processor. Yeah. So these actions, as you can see, are this one. You can see that the first one is do not perform any actions. The second one, mock this processor, verify this processor was called, and spy this processor. Okay, you can do this for each one of the processors. Now, not all the processors have all the actions enabled. Yeah, as you can see, for example, the transfer message, you don't have the option to mock this processor. Yeah. Okay. So then we hit next and finish. When we hit finish, these files will be automatically created. Yeah, as you can see, this name, this package name, is the same one that we set for the test name. Yeah. So as you can see, we have some data with files here. These data with files have the information that we wanted to save from the options that we choose here. Yeah. So we're going to see it in the demo, so don't worry. Yeah. So now we move to the fourth step, which is run a new run the MUnit test. Yeah. So just like that, we are now able to run our MUnit test. Yeah, because automatically generates this MUnit suite. You can do right click, run MUnit test, and that it's going to work. Yeah, but have something in mind. As you can see here, we have an Azure expression, an Azure payload. For I know here there are people that come from the IT world, but perhaps there are someone who don't come from the IT, or they don't have experience with programming or testing. So Azure expressions are used to validate some information, some data. So let's say that, for example, we called in our test, we retrieve some information from the database, and one of those fields is a timestamp. So the timestamp, so the assertion is going to validate the timestamp that got before. So if we now execute this running this MUnit test, it won't work. Why? Because the time has changed. Yeah. So keep that in mind. It's good, but it's not magic. Yeah. So And then last step, we can evaluate the results. Yeah, as you can see, and like we have told before, there is an application coverage. Yeah, this application coverage shows you the percentage of the executed flows. Yeah, a test may or may not cover all flows. Yeah, perhaps you have one application with 5 flows, but you only tested one flow. So this red crossbar doesn't mean that it failed. It means that this percentage in red hasn't been covered by the test. Yeah, which is good or not. That depends on what you wanted to test. Yeah. So as you can see here at the bottom left, for example, I have a CRUD to a database, and I only tried one of the flows. So the flow that I tried, that I tested, it's in green, which is good, and it's covered in 100%. Yeah. The other ones that are in red doesn't mean that they fail. It means that they haven't been tested on this case. Yeah. Okay. So before talking parameterizations, let me check if there is any questions on the chat. Okay. Okay, great.
Flavio, I have one question regarding like did you experience any issues while running this recorder tool with the actual project?
Uh, the only issues that I have are the two that I mentioned a few minutes ago. The first one, that is not an issue. It's something you have to keep in mind, perhaps. When you hit the button to record the test, sometimes the frame it doesn't show properly. But there are sometimes that people download a project from GitHub where they have already the MUnit in there, and they test by the first time and it fails. And one of the reasons is that the one I have told, that perhaps you are making an assertion for a field that it's a timestamp, and of course the date has changed. So so far so good. Yeah. 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 I don't know if anyone have already an issue with this.
Yeah,
We can discuss it.
yeah, I have a question, Flavio.
Yeah.
So, whenever I started to work on this record test feature, I see it will fail. And if it doesn't fail, it will stop the Anypoint Studio. It starts hanging. So, what I saw, I was going through some articles and some blogs. I saw that it will always try to work with the real time data. So, if that real time data is not matching with the current set of data that I'm trying to test, then it will always fail. So how do I cope up with this situation? I mean, there is not a single time I remember I could work with the record test.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's a good question, and I think the answer it will be covered on the demo, because I can show it. But let me try to answer before.
Sure,
I don't know
sure.
if I'm going to make myself clear, but yeah, when you use text recorder, as like we have seen, it automatically generates an assertion. Yeah, so that assertion is validating by the first time and a data whip expression. Yeah, that data whip expression, perhaps it has a payload, attributes, whatever. So what happens is next. The next time you run the test, it's going to validate the real-time data, and that's what you want. Otherwise you won't be testing the application for real. Yeah.
Okay.
So perhaps I didn't make myself clear, and I'm going to answer you better in the demo. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so
Uh,
much.
if I don't answer your question, let me know. Yeah, and we can
Sure,
give it a
sure,
look.
sure. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Okay. Clarence, depending on the scenario, in web dev we have to set unit test priority to avoid conflict. In web development, we have to set unit test priority to avoid conflict. How does this prioritization works on MuleSoft? Okay, so MUnit test recorder or MUnit is it's good for developers. Yeah, it's pretty good. If you want to try, if you want to test for sure your application, uh, that will need to be covered by a QA team or a UAT team. Yeah, but what allows you a Unit is to find issues before you send them to the test environment. You know, or sometimes even in a huge companies that they have a continuous integration. If you don't provide an MUnit project that demonstrates that your application is working, Jenkins as itself or the continuous integration environment won't allow you to deploy to dev or to test environment. Yeah. Okay. Shreya. For me, the record test was I have tried multiple work is stubborn. Okay, so when MUnit, or actually when test recorder, you want to test it, it actually starts your application like you run it, yeah, or debug it. So when you let's say when you run your application without using test recorder, does it work at first, or sometimes do you have issues?
It works normally, like just testing the application, I mean just running the application, it never
Mhm.
fails. But when I try to record the test, it will be like it will take a lot of time first of all, and after
Mhm.
that it will fail and the Anypoint Studio will stop working, so I have to again like
Mhm.
force stop it and then again I start. So it's better like I write the tests manually.
Well, I saw a few times that this error occurred due to out of memory error, or sometimes because there is a problem with the Anypoint Studio. Sometimes when you update the version, everything gets fixed, and that works. But
I mean,
if
I was working with the version 7.8.0 and 7.10.0.
okay,
So yeah, it is like the almost the updated version.
okay,
So I
mm,
don't know why.
okay. So to be honest, I don't know what the reason might be, but or if is the resources of your machine, or perhaps we can give it a look if you want. Yeah, you
Sure,
can.
sure. Definitely.
I don't know if we are going to have time in this session, but you can ping me there after. Sorry, and we can give it a look for sure. Yeah.
Okay, 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 sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Is the tool able to record multiple parallel flows in a Mule project or Anypoint Studio? If you mean that you have parallel flows once your flow, your main flow has been executed, yes, it will. Yeah. If you mean that you have five main flows or five flows that you want to execute them in parallel, to be honest, I don't know. I haven't ever tried that. Um, um, because for that, I think that you may have a scheduler, let's say, and you have five flows with different schedulers, and they all run at the same time. That could be a scenario. We can try it. We can try it if you want. Huh? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Kishore says the same thing. Yeah. Okay. So, what time is it? Okay. Um. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Lokesh. Okay, I think I can move on. Okay, now let's see something called parameterizations. Yeah, this is pretty cool. You might want to use it in the future. It will save you a lot of time, and you won't need a client or anything. So, parameterizations. Parameterizations allows us to, like it says here, allows us to execute a request with multiple and different inputs. Yeah. So this means that you have to run once the test, but you can send multiple inputs. Yeah. So if you run once, you can set, let's say, 4 or 5 different inputs with different payloads or whatever. Yeah. So and only using your Anypoint Studio, you don't need a Postman or something. So for this, we can say there are 3 methods that can be used in order to achieve this. Yeah. The method number 1 will be using a YAML file. Yeah. So here we have a YAML file. As you can see, we have second ID and third ID. These 2 will be parameters. Yeah. So ID will be the property for each of these parameters. Yeah. And of course, this is the value of this property. Yeah. So now that we have this YAML file, what we have to do, the file, when you create these files, it has to be under source test resources, because by default, MUnit looks for these files under this directory. Okay. So once we have created this file, what we have to do is reference this file from the XML. When I say XML, I mean the MUnit suite that gets automatically generated when you ran the test previously. Yeah. Okay. So now we have to reference this YAML from this MUnit suite. How do we do that? Okay. As you can see here, inside of config, I created a statement that it's called parameterizations, and it has an attribute that reference to the YAML file that we just have created. As you can see, it is plain parameterizations.yaml, since I placed this file, this YAML file, under this directory. Yeah. Okay, so now we have reference to that file, but how does MUnit know that these are the values that they have to execute when running the test? Yeah. Okay. So, like we have seen earlier, we have a behavior. Yeah. We have this scope. On this one, we can say, for example, let's set a payload, or can be whatever you need. But here at the value, we reference to $ID. This $ID means, okay, let's run all the inputs, all the parameters that we have inside of this file with a property called ID. So we can say if we run this MUnit suite, it should run one time, but execute 2 different inputs, second ID and third ID. Yeah. Okay, so that would be method number 1. Method number 2, it's parameters with within the config XML, directly on the config XML. Yeah. So on the first method, we have this file attribute that references the YAML file. But as you can see in this method number 2, we don't have that one. Yeah, we define a list of parameters. Yeah, that list of parameters will have a property name and a value. Yeah, same as here, as the YAML, but in another way. Yeah, so for this parameterization, we call it, let's say, first ID, but it could have 1 or multiple parameters. So if we run this test, it will run once, but only one input, since we are passing one parameter. Yeah. Of course, if you add, let's say you have here 5 parameters, it will run once, but with 5 different inputs. And method number 3 will be a combination of the 2 previous. Yeah, it will be a YAML file and the parameter within the config XML. So as you can see here, we now have back our reference to the YAML file, and also we have a list of parameters. Yeah. So and you have a set payload referencing a property ID called ID. So this will look IDs on parameters and also on the YAML file. Yeah. So we can say that if we run this test, it will run once, but it will send 3 inputs, 2 that we have defined on the YAML file here, and 1 on the list of these parameters. Okay. So I don't know, perhaps this is too much to say it quickly, but it will be, I think it will be better if we give it a look on a demo. Yeah. So
We have a question from Cleverson. Do you want to?
yeah, sure.
Yeah. So he's asking regarding best practices, which method is recommended? Method 1 seems to be better organized. Is there a rule of thumb?
Okay, there is no such rule. Actually, if you go to the documentation of MuleSoft, they don't say too much about this. But in my opinion, I think it's better, let's say, to define them in the YAML file. But you can define a default case or a case you are going to use always directly on the on the config XML. Yeah. But I choose the YAML file for the same reason that you said. It's for to be more organized, and if you imagine that you send this project with MUnit to a teammate, if that teammate looks under the XML, it will be, it wouldn't be the best. So if you have those parameters set on the YAML file, it's cleaner. You can see it better. Yeah. Okay. So okay. So can you tell me if you see my screen good, or perhaps I can try another one. Okay. Thank you. So okay. So we're going to see a quick demo. Okay. So, like we said, the first thing we need to do is record the test. Yeah. So here I have a project that it has accrued to a database which has these 3 requests. Yeah. Sorry, 3 rows. So only for the purpose of this test, I created this one. And what we're going to do is right-click MUnit and record test for this flow. Yeah. Okay, so this usually starts very quickly, under a minute. Yeah. Okay, let me check if there is. Well, thank you, Kishore. This is good to use, because you don't need an external client like Postman, Swap UI. You can work only with Anypoint Studio. It's a pretty good feature. Okay, you can see that now it's deployed and it's waiting for input data. Yeah. So I have here my postman. I send a request. It's recording and it stopped. Yeah. So now we can configure our test. So let's change the name. File name that we can say, okay, music, and test name we can say live test. Okay, we hit next, and here we have the options to choose what do we want. Yeah, payload, attributes, variables. In this flow, I don't have any variables, so I'm not able to select it. But for the output, as you can see, we have only payload and variables in this case. Yeah. So I'm going to leave it that way. Hit next. Sorry. Sorry. And here you can say that if you want to perform any action on this, like we said before, here you can see that for select processor, you can choose all of this, but let's say for a logger, you don't have the option to choose to mount this processor, of course. Yeah. So okay. So next, finish. And as you can see, this MUnit suite, it's automatically generated. And if we go under source test resources, we have this package, live test, the one that we just have created. So here are a few data wave files, and if we look into them, this one is called Azure Expression Payload. Yeah. So this one, it says that the payload must be equal to this. This is the result that got from the database. Yeah. So we can see, for example, we have the attributes. Yeah, this is pretty good if you can use it. It's pretty good. And they set event payload. As you can see, this is the payload that I have sent before. Yeah. So now, if I run this, it should work. Yeah, right away. Here we have the execution, and it could be green or red. Let's hope it's green. Okay. One thing. Here there is a file called log4j2 test XML. Here you can set the level of logging for each one of these. I think that by default it's on warning. I changed some of them to debug, but yeah, you can change them if you need. Okay, so here is green, beautiful. Okay, so now we have run our first test using a MUnit test recorder. What we can do now is see how it works with parameterizations. Yeah. Okay, so first of all, okay, here we are going to use method number one. Method number one was the one that with the YAML file. Yeah. So here inside of this config element, we create one called parameterizations. Yeah. And here we reference to a file, and our file it's called parameterizations.yaml. Yeah. And this file I have already created before. Here, let me see, it's under source test resources and has this information that I showed you before. Yeah, we have one parameter called second ID and another one third ID with property names called ID and these values. Okay. So here now we are referencing to the YAML file, but we didn't say yet, okay, execute these parameters or these properties. Yeah. So for that, what we have to do is, okay, instead of set event, I'm going to use a set payload. Yeah. So here in payload, we are going to reference our property names. Yeah, it was ID, so it will be $ID. Yeah, and here, keep it in mind, define the type. Yeah, because let's say right now it's a JSON. Why? Because this is a JSON. If we don't set this this type, it will fail. Yeah. So okay. Perhaps I can here I can answer one of the questions before. I think it was let me check. I don't know if it was Shreya. Okay, so here I have the assertion. Yeah, this assertion is related to the first execution. Yeah, the first execution worked with the body. Okay, sorry. Let me show you here. Okay, so this is what I tested with ID number 1. Yeah, so if I run this like this test suite with ID 1, it will work. Yeah, it will validate against this assertion. But now we are going to send ID with 2 and value of 3 also. So this should fail. Yeah, no, it will fail the assertion, not the test. Yeah. So we are going to run it, and we should see here 2 entries. Yeah, one for second ID and one for third ID, and here they are. Yeah. So here is taking the properties from the YAML file that we are seeing right here. Okay, it's deployed, and now it will start testing. So as you can see here, we are running the test once, but we are sending 2 different inputs. Yeah. Okay, sure. Yeah. Can we minimize the console? Do you mean like this, or the entire endpoint to the keysure? Okay. Yeah. Sorry. And yes, like I'm gonna say, you can use a set event instead of a set payload. This is for this property, this sake for this test. Yeah. So 1 second. Okay, as you can see, it's all in red and it has some failures. Yeah. So if we see the report, it says that we only executed 1 flow. Yeah. But this failed because this assertion. Now, if we remove this assertion, and we run it again, it should work. If I recall, if I did everything right, it should work. Okay, let me see if there is any questions. No, okay. Okay, 1 second. But if you remove the assertion, how will yeah, of course, if you remove the assertion, it won't validate the data. This is just for showing that if you get a different response, it will fail. Yeah, but right now we can make an assertion for each of these cases, but for due the time for this meetup, we are not doing one assertion for each case. Yeah, but yeah, of course. Okay, so as you can see, here is everything in green. Yeah, they worked, and before they failed due to the assertion. Yeah. So now that was method number 1 using the YAML file. So instead of using YAML file, we can go to method number 2, which is setting the parameters directly in the config XML. Yeah. So if we create this parameterization element, we can call it first ID. And here we define a list of parameters. Yeah. So it needs some value and some property name. For the property name, we're going to set ID. Yeah. For the value, we're going to send a small JSON like before. It will be ID 1. Yeah. So we are in the set payload. We are still looking for a $ID property. Yeah. So here it is. Now, if we run, if we run this test, we should have only one case. Yeah. Here in the left panel, we should have only one case. It's called first ID, which is the one that we named here, first ID. Yeah. Let me see if there is any questions. No. Okay. Okay, it's in green. This means it worked, of course. So now, last but not least, we're going to try the method number 3. That would be using the YAML file and also a list of parameters here. Yeah. So we can leave this. We can leave this list of parameters, but here in parameterizations, we are going to reference again our file. That will be parameterizations.yaml. Okay. So now, just doing that, if we run now this test, we should have not 1, not 2, but 3 entries here in the left panel. Yeah, 2 for those for the ones defined here in the YAML file, and 1 for the one defined here in the list of parameters. Yeah. So yeah, we have 3. We have 3 here: first ID, second ID, and third ID. Let's see if they work. Okay, now it's deployed. Okay, now it's testing. Let's see what happens. Okay. this one works. Let's see the other two. Okay, this one worked. Okay, 3 of them are in green. Yeah. Okay, so let me go back to the chat. Okay, Waldes, can you comment on what we will need to change in the assertion to validate properly positive results using the new YAML parameterization file, etc. Live we will use YAML parameterization file. Well, yeah, that's a good question. You can validate some of the data, or you can just modify. Okay, let me see here. 1 second. Okay. If I have it here. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. In the meantime, Puneet, is there an order of execution of the test cases that you can define? I have tried, and it's random. Sometimes it first runs the one defined on the config XML, but as you can see here, first run the first on the YAML file. Yeah. Thank to you. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to try to answer Waldo's question. Okay, deploy. Sorry. I run the application instead of running the test record. Yeah, my bad. Sorry. Okay. Okay, it's deploying, waiting for input data. We send the data. Okay, let's say. Okay. Okay, so now if you I don't know if you can do the assertion dynamically, but if you define different assertions or different data wave files, all you have to do is change. Sorry, I see it. Well, I don't know what I didn't see. Yeah, here. See here, it reference to Azure expression payload. It should be the name of the data wave file. Let me see. Yeah, here. Azure expression payload. Yeah. As you can see, it is importing this package here and you can use you can change here the name of the assertion that you, or yeah, the payload that you want to compare. I don't know if you can do it dynamically. I will try it. And I'll let you know. Yeah, but yeah, I think that would be. If you want, well, this, also you can ping me and we can give it a look together after. Yeah. Okay, so well, actually, I think it's pretty. It works pretty fast compared to running or deploying or debugging the application and then testing all the cases and validating manually all the information. So in my opinion, I think it works good. And I have seen also on a continuous integration environment that it works good. Yeah. Can you debug while test? No. You can either run the test case or debug. Trying to mock time taking calls that already is the right time. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. So okay, so I think that will be all. Let me jump again to the slides. And here is the second and last quiz. Yeah. So be ready. You still have chances to get those vouchers. Yeah. So okay. So first question. These are three. Yeah? Task Recorder is an accelerator you can download and it can be used since Meetup 3. This is true or false?
Everyone gets it.
Yeah. Actually, it's false. It's embedded in Android Studio and it's available since Mule 4. Good. So, second question. In order to use parameterization, is it not mandatory to create a YAML? This is true or false? We discussed this. Something similar. Yeah, and the answer is true. It's not mandatory, but it's advisable to use it in order to organize different inputs in a better way. Yeah. So, yeah, that was the last question. Well, thank you for your time, and now we are going back to Mahesh and see who are the winners for these vouchers. Yeah, I'm going to start sharing my screen. Okay. I don't know.
You have to unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
Sorry. I was saying that you can stop the recording if you want, right?
Yeah, let me do that.
Yeah. So what we have decided is